How's it going, everyone? I am the Shaz here with a video going over the now second part of the month of October and its events. All of the events that I am going to list would have come, if the global schedule had not accelerated, in the month of November. This does create a bit of a conundrum for me in my videos, but that's a whole nother issue that I don't want to bother you with. Anyway, let's get started. After the LEI Fest banner, we got the Noble Princess Exchange event, featuring Event UR Honoka 4, Event SR's Marching Band Setsuna and Brightest Melody Yo, Gacha URs Rico 4 and Karin 3, and Gacha SR Sore Boku Maki. The voltage ranking songs for this event are Start Dash, Strawberry Trapper, and Audrey. Let's start with the event cards. Noble Princess Honoka, or Honoka 4, is probably one of the most useful event cards to come out since Kimono Event Ruby, or Ruby 2. While she'll never see your main scoring strategy and her base stats are pretty forgettable, she is a fantastic backliner. Her passive ability is an all-member appeal buff at 2.9% at skill level 4, but her live show active is one of the best the backliners could have. The increase appeal of all members by 5% LSA, with hers triggering at the start of the live and activating at a 30% chance. If you never got Kimono Event Ruby from the event or the SBL shop, this card is a very worthy substitute. The event SRs, on the other hand, not great. Marching Band Setsuna is a pretty decent healer for an SR, but she has a very weak appeal stat. Her passive is a group stamina buff, buffing all members except herself, for 3.6% at skill level 3, but her live show active just reduces damage taken during an appeal chance and only lasts until the end of the AC. Brightest Melody Yo is also pretty forgettable, with her only saving grace being her live show active, which provides a 3% appeal buff to all members for the rest of the live upon AC completion, activating at a 30% rate. The first part of the event gacha gives us Rico's 4th UR, a natural attribute SP type gauge bomber. While being comparable to the Mari UR we just got from the October Spotlight, this Rico is considerably weaker overall, as her highest base stat, Technique, does not factor into her tap active, which increases voltage of the next SP gauge based on her appeal. Her passive is a narrow one, only increasing Technique of other natural attribute cards, but her LSA is pretty interesting, healing stamina equal to 20% of her Technique upon SP gauge usage, activating at a 50% rate. Overall grade, weird kid. Ada idolized art. The second event gacha UR is Karin 3, a pure attribute SK type. This card is very similar to the China-made Ayumu UR that just happened at the end of October, but their passives and live show actives are quite different, with Karin's being more narrow than Ayumu. Where Ayumu's passive buffs the appeal of other second years, Karin increases the technique stat of cards in her strategy, which works if you have her as a frontliner since her high technique means she crits at a 33% rate. However, her live show active is very weak. While it does activate at a 50% chance, it only activates on her own crits, in addition to only increasing the skill activation rate of other pure attribute cards by 25% for the next 2 notes, meaning she basically needs to be in a fully on attribute scoring strategy for this LSA to be of significant use. The real winner in the event gacha card sweepstakes is Sore Boku SR Maki, a pure attribute voltage type that has the same tap active, passive, and live show active as one of the most notable scoring SRs in the game at this point, Snow Halation Kotori. Kotori does have a higher base appeal at Limit Break 0 than that of Sore Boku Maki, but the argument can be made that Maki is actually more valuable, since pure attribute voltage types are very hard to come by, especially if you haven't pulled either UR Fesio or Honoka 3. This card can easily carry some of your non-cleansable pure attribute songs when paired with something like another pure attribute voltage type SR, Cheerleader Chica. After the end of the Noble Princess Exchange event, we got the November Spotlight Gacha, featuring Kasumi 3 and Sore Boku SR Kotori. Starting with Kasumi 3, a cool attribute guard type, her closest comparison is Yohane 2. While both have a comparable base appeal and technique at Limit Break 0, Kasumi sports nearly 800 more stamina than Yohane, arguably making her the better frontline healer. They both share the same tap active, healing at 26% of their own stamina at skill level 3. With that being said, Yohane increases the stamina of all other cards except herself by 4.6% at skill level 3, while Kasumi increases the stamina of same strategy cards by 6% at skill level 3. These two cards also have very different LSAs, however. Yoha2 has a 30% chance to recover 20% of her own stamina at the beginning of an AC, whereas Kasumi, for some reason, can increase the voltage of other first years by 7% for the next 2 notes upon taking 200 damage, activating at a 5% chance. This LSA can only really be maximized in a full first year scoring strategy, but at least it's better than nothing, I guess. As for Soreboku Kotori, she is basically an anomaly. A pure attribute SK type card that is not a gauge filler, not an appeal booster, not a skill activation rate booster, not a crit booster, but a shielder. The actual barebones stats of this card are not bad. 3557 appeal, 2507 stamina, and 4390 technique at limit break 0. The technique matters though, as her shield generation is based off of her technique and not her stamina. God, this makes Veggie Kotori UR look like even more of a dumpster fire. Her passive ability also helps her tap active, as it increases the technique of same attribute cards by 2.6% at skill level 3, and her live show active gives a voltage boost equal to 30% of her technique, activating at a 30% rate upon AC completion. In the middle of the Spotlight Gacha, we got the newest event type called Dream Live Parade. Lasting roughly 5 days, this event type was a shock to the system on JP. If you had little to no team building knowledge, this event completely kicked your behind. I recently did another video going more in-depth into this event type, so if you want more details, I'll have a link in the description below and at the end of the video. Following the end of the first Dream Live Parade, we get the Raindrops Marathon event, featuring Event UR Emma 3, Event SRs Marching Band I and Soreboku Nico, with Gacha URs Nozo 4 and Kanan 4, and Gacha SR Brightest Melody Hanamaru. As with most global events, the top 10 will most likely be highly contested, but I don't expect the top 100 to be as contested as either the Rikomaki event or the ice skating event. Starting with the event UR, we have Emma 3, an active attribute voltage type card with a pretty straightforward kit. Assuming you tier high enough to get a second copy of her, which shouldn't be too much of a problem, she starts with 5067 base appeal, 4374 base stamina, and 5058 base technique. Her tap active is a voltage boost equal to 29% of her appeal at skill level 3, and her passive increases the appeal of other cards in the same strategy by 5% at skill level 3, and her live show active increases the skill activation rate of all members by 10% for the next 10 notes upon appeal chance completion. Even if you don't have any great active attribute scores, this card will rarely see main scoring strategy duties except for probably during Dream Live Parade. The active attribute has more viable scores than this card, though it can be helpful during certain SBL songs for skill cheesing as a backliner due to her LSA. As far as the event SRs you get from tiering, Marching Band I and Soreboku Nico, well, like most event SRs, they're not really great stat or kit wise. Granted, Marching Band I does give you another guard type card for Dream Live Parade, and Soreboku Nico does have a decent LSA that, if activated at the beginning of a live, increases the value of crit taps by 3% for the rest of the live. I can't really say anything else particularly positive about either of these cards. For the Gacha URs, we start with the first part of the banner, Nozo 4. A pure attribute guard type, she holds her own as a sustain card that you'll be fine with pulling. Let's compare her to another notable pure attribute guard type, LE1. While they have similar base appeal at limit break 0, their stat differences come with a nearly complete flip of their stamina and technique stats. Nozomi will shield for more, starting with 6732 base stamina compared to Ellie's paltry 2964, but Ellie is the much better scorer from sporting a 6663 base technique and 34.6% crit rate, whereas Nozomi comes in with a 3907 base technique and an 11.49% crit rate. While LE1 is a healer, Nozomi 4 is a shielder, and a significantly stronger one at that. Because she provides a shield of 26% of her stamina at skill level 3, Nozomi will shield for nearly 1000 stamina more than LE1 heals for, making her the better sustain card if you don't need the higher scoring possibility coming out of LE1. Nozomi's passive is also much more restricted than that of LE1, as her passive gives a stamina buff to same attribute cards at 4.6% at skill level 3, versus Ellie's same strategy stamina buff of 6% at skill level 3. Nozo's live show active, however, is pretty interesting considering her typing. If activated upon taking 350 damage, it gives a voltage boost of 10% of her stamina, activating at a 5% rate. The second part of the event gacha gives us Kanon 4, a Smile attribute SK type card. A card with an SP gauge fill tap active, the closest comparison comes to Train Nico or Nico 2. While Kanon sports both higher appeal and technique, she has lower stamina and a weaker tap active, since Nico can fill 8% of the SP gauge at skill level 3, and Kanon can only fill 7% at the same skill level. The big differences in their kits are in their passives and LSAs. Kanon provides a technique buff to all other cards in her strategy at 6% at skill level 3, whereas Nico gives an appeal buff to other active attribute cards of 4.6% at skill level 3. Their LSAs are also miles apart, as Kanon's has a 50% chance to activate upon SP gauge usage and provide a crit rate increase of 15% for only the next 3 notes, while Nico's is better in tandem with other active attribute cards, since hers provides a skill activation rate increase of 15% for other active attribute cards for the next 10 notes at the beginning of an appeal chance, with this LSA activating at a 30% rate. The Gacha SR, Brightest Melody Hanamaru, is meh. In average strength for voltage type SRs, the closest comparison kit-wise would be Borarara Honoka. Both have a voltage gain increased tap active of 4.6% for the next 5 notes at skill level 3, but while Honoka's increases the voltage of other voltage types, Maru increases the voltage for other first years. Both have a passive that increases the appeal of same attribute cards by 2.6% at skill level 3, and share the same LSA, which is, upon AC completion, increase skill activation rate of all members by 8% for the next 10 notes, activating at a 50% chance. The differences stop there though, as these two cards have vastly different stat lines. While Borarara Honoka has a pretty even stat line, but a slightly higher technique stat, Brightest Melody Hanamaru beats Honoka by 800 base appeal, making her the more consistent scorer of the two. At the now end of the month of October, we get the Fes banner, featuring Chika and In. Another banner with quite a bit of hype surrounding it, and, like the Fes Setsuna banner, it all revolves around one card, but let's break down both cards. Fes Chika, or Chika 4, or Water Gun Chika, whatever you want to call her, is a pure attribute voltage type that is an absolute monster of a card that is far from normal. The obvious comp is to Fes Setsuna, and the comparison would be correct. At Limit Break 0, Setsuna has only 70 more base appeal than Chika, but Chika, as you can see here, has higher base stamina and base technique. At Max Limit Break, the differences in stats are still very minuscule, as Setsuna has 131 higher base appeal, but Chika has 204 more base stamina and 950 more base technique, which translate into a roughly 3% higher crit rate. It isn't much, but hey, when we get to max limit breaks, you have to nitpick a little. As far as abilities go, both cards share the same passive, which increases appeal of other cards in the same strategy by a maximum of 7%, so let's talk about the differences, which come in their tap actives and live show actives. Setsuna's tap active, as many of you already know, adds voltage to your score based on a percentage of her own appeal. Fes Chika, however, boosts the voltage gained by other second years at a maximum of 10% at max skill level for the next 3 notes, with both skills activating at a 33% rate. For live show actives, they are similar yet wildly different. While Fes Setsuna has a chance to add 10% of her appeal as voltage upon strategy switch, Fes Chika has a chance to add a whopping 60% of her appeal in the same way, though Fes Chika's ability will only activate at a 5% rate versus Setsuna's 30% rate. What does this all mean? Well, in the larger scheme of things, if you happen to have any 3 or all 5 of Fes Yo, Fes Chika, Fes I, Fes Setsuna, and Umi 2, limit breaks being equal, you have some of the strongest scorer combos in the game at this point, period. With all of these cards being second years and Fes Yo and Fes Chica having tap actives that boost either appeal or voltage of other second years, a combination of 3 of them is what you will need to end up utilizing to brute force most voltage rankings during exchange events and voltage runs during SBL. Let's talk about the other Fes card, Fes Rin, or Rin 5 or Palm Rin. A cool attribute SP Gauge Bomber that will immediately draw comparisons to the other cool attribute SP type Fes card, Fes Karin. When comparing the two stat-wise at Limit Break 0, you see 2 glaringly large differences. Fes Karin starts off with nearly 1400 more base appeal than Fes Rin, but Rin counters that by having nearly 1300 more base stamina and 820 more base technique. This translates into Rin having a 17% higher crit rate than Karin and the second highest crit rate among cool URs at Limit Break 0, trailing only Yo 1 by a mere 0.2%. Now, let's get into abilities. Continuing the comparison to Fes Karin, Fes Rin will actually add more voltage to your next SP gauge because of the percentage of appeal that the tap active is based on. Karin's boost comes in at 31% of her appeal at skill level 3, where Rin's is 39% of her appeal. This means that when you include her passive, she'll add almost 200 more voltage in the next SP gauge. Their passives and live show actives provide completely opposite stat buffs to compensate for the stat category in which they're lacking. Karin gives a technique buff to other cards in her strategy to compensate for her lower technique, while Rin has a passive that boosts the appeal of other first years by a maximum of 5.2% at max skill level, meaning if you pull her but can't seem to fit her in your main scoring unit, she still has some merit as a backline card to boost your scoring if you utilize multiple first years in certain scoring strategies. For example, the Rin 2 Pana 3 combo for Smile attribute songs, a Maki 1 plus Yohane 4 for Cool attribute songs, or even a Fes Pana plus Yohane 1 combo for Elegant attribute songs. Fes Rin's live show active is a bit of a weird one, as if it activates at the beginning of an appeal chance, it increases the SP gauge gain of other cool attribute cards by a whopping 24%, but only for the next 5 notes and only activating at a 35% rate. At the same time as the release of the Fes banner, we get the Story Chapter 16 update, giving us the attribute versions of No Brand Girls and the second Shoutout song, Kimirai Happy End. The attribute version of No Brand Girls is elegant and employs a brand new live show gimmick, which we will cover shortly. Voltage requirement to S-rank this song is 6.344 million, though it does have a cleansable 20% off attribute debuff. There are 10k damage notes in this song, so you will want to prioritize a healer over a shielder, but in addition to that, all of the appeal chances increase your base crit rate based on the amount of SK type cards in your team. Why is this important? To clear the first and last ACs, which both require you to proc 10 crit taps, you will need to find a perfect balance of both guard and SK type cards to help you clear the song. If you are able to, prioritize high crit rate cards or make a separate strategy for these particular ACs utilizing cards like LA1, Yo 1, Yohane 1, Nico 2, Maru 4, Fes Kotori, Fes Emma, Fes Pana, or Fes Umi. For Kimirai Happy End, a natural attribute song, this is a tad more straightforward, but does have a few more challenges. The first of these challenges, dealing with the 11 total 10k damage notes spread over the song. As you can see here, most are clustered, then you get a bit of a break before they cluster again. This offsets the low damage per note of the song, so if you have a strong enough healer, or a card like Fes Maru, this shouldn't be too much of a problem. The second challenge is the first appeal chance, which requires you to activate 7 card skills. This shouldn't be too much of an issue if you stay on attribute, however, as the AC buffs skill activation rate of natural cards by 20%. The rest of the song remains straightforward, though don't forget that the fourth appeal chance is an SP gauge pop. The last event in the month of November, which will now be at the end of October on the global server, starting the day after the Fes banner, was the 4th official SBL. As always, I'll be doing a separate video on SBL, but to preview, the Muse song is Snow Halation, the Aqua song is Kokoro Magic A to Z, and the Nijigasaki song will be Diamond, with the stat bonuses for this SBL going to all Niji cards. And with that, we are done updating the upcoming events for the rest of the month of October on the global server. If you enjoyed the video and would like to support my work, share this video, subscribe for free here on YouTube, follow me for free on Twitch over at twitch.tv/IamTheShaz, and join my Twitch channel Discord. Links will be in the description below. If my Twitch and or YouTube content is worthy enough and you would like to support monetarily, you can subscribe to or give bits on my Twitch channel. It is never required of you as a viewer, but always greatly appreciated. Finally, a big thanks to my Twitch subs, CO SIFAS, 86 Romy, Minomone, Shut-It, Poker Dottie, and AJ Bailey 3, most of whom have gifted subs in the channel as well. I've been I Am The Shaz, take it easy, be nice to each other, and I'll see you all next time.